everyone. Welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This podcast is all about farmers markets. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a small farmer or food maker selling at farmers markets, you have found just the right podcast.
I'm Kat Fields-White.
And I'm Bridget Myers. We're longtime farmers market managers, educators, and consultants. Get ready to catch up on all things farmers market pros with us. Today, we're chatting about doing good while looking good.
Looking good.
Real good.
Today's episode of Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is supported by Blue Owl Promos, helping market managers and vendors create additional income streams by supplying branded tote bags, hats, and water bottles, and yes, supplying staff uniform shirts to meet any budget. If you've attended Intense, the Farmers Market Conference, you've seen mason jar mugs, reusable utensils, and clipboards with the Farmers Market Pros logo in your swag bags, all from Blue Owl Promo. For more information on how to increase your income and your visibility, click the Blue Owl Promo logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com.
Welcome back to Tent Talk, everybody. It is hard to believe, but we are more than 250 episodes into this Tent Talk podcast, and we still have things to talk about. Who knew? Of course, it's because our job is so weird.
That's right. I was wearing that button on a subway the other day, and somebody said, I just have to ask, what's your job? And then I said, farmers market manager. And, as usual, they said, what does that even mean? And so we started running through all the different tasks. And yes, our job is weird.
Like, this is my stop. I have to get off. There's too many things
That's
that
right.
you're listing.
We can't go any further.
Oh, man. Well, yeah, it's been a long farmers market podcast journey, and we still have lots of topics to cover. So we have a good one today, kind of short and sweet, but very important.
Yeah. So I've been traveling around to various markets the last many weeks and months. And it's so fun to run into farmers and vendors and market managers and hear about which episodes they find helpful. So yeah, we got plenty of episodes to come. It's amazing what helps people. One quick thing, speaking about helpful knowledge, we wanted everybody to remember that the request for proposals is now open for Intense, the Farmers Market Conference 2024.
Woo woo!
Woo woo! Coming up next March. We'll be back in San Diego, at least for 2024. And we want to hear from you. What can you tell us about climate change or about waste reduction or how to build an email list and not tear your hair out dealing with MailChimp? All of those valuable things that people need to learn. So send us what you want to talk about. Tell us how you want to do it, whether it's on sort of a talk show type panel format, whether you're going to stand up there with the PowerPoint. Those can be great. Those can be boring. Feel it out, see what you're comfortable with, and send your proposal in now. Go to Conference RFP, request for proposal, RFP, conferencerfp.com. Fill out that simple form. Tell us what you want to talk about. We're putting that schedule together now.
So easy.
So easy.
So easy to find. Yeah. Well, today we are chatting about what to wear and what not to wear at your farmer's market. Making your team stand out on site at your market gives folks who attend confidence that they're talking to someone who will have the answers. You want to be noticeable and memorable and, of course, comfortable.
Oh, man, that comfortable is important.
Very important.
Out there in the heat, out there in the cold, rain or shine, got to be dressed for it all. And yeah, it's really important that people can find you and find the person they need to ask questions and have them, if it's a farmer or a vendor, they need to find the person to point them towards their booth. If it's a customer, they need to find the person to ask a question. If it's an emergency, you want to be visible.
Yeah, for sure. And just talking about how people don't understand that running a farmer's market is a job, wearing a uniform, I think, kind of signals this is a job. So that's one more reason to wear a uniform. And getting your staff on board with this idea is very, very useful as well. You want to make sure that everyone's, whether you're just doing name tags or doing shirts that are matching or hats or whatever your uniform is, kind of getting your staff on board with that so you're all looking consistent is very important.
Yeah, I think so too. And you know what? That's good for farmers and vendors too. Getting your team to be really recognizable, getting that branding on there. I mean, that really counts. We haven't had a lot of resistance from our team about wearing uniforms, right?
No, not at all. I tend to wear stuff. I mean, they're uniforms for myself as well. And so since I'm working on staff, open to close with the the market management team, I feel like I pick stuff that I want to wear that I feel comfortable in. It's usually like a really light t-shirt, like a lightweight t-shirt. I don't get the heavy Hanes, thick, like boxy shirt. I find something cute. I like bright colors, which I sometimes the staff is like, wow, this green is really green.
Oh, the
That's
one
a
you have
neon
now at
green.
the Little Italy markets.
Yeah.
That is a very bright green, thick
Yeah.
cone green kind of. And when you add the hat with that really bright green panel on the hat, I mean, you cannot lose those market managers.
I will say I told the staff the hat is optional. They can wear their own hat or they can wear no hat. But and they all kind of razz me. They're like, "Wow, Bridget, when you put that hat on, like it's like a beacon of light down the street when the sun reflects off that neon green hat." But I like that. I like to have a name tag. I put staff in huge letters on our back of our shirts. Like because I want customers to ask me questions because if they don't know who to ask or they can't find somebody to ask or they don't think there's anybody on site that they can ask questions, then they just make wild assumptions.
Farmers and vendors too, when they're setting up. I
Yeah,
mean, if your staff isn't visible and they need to kind of figure out where their space might be, or you needed them to move that day because somebody's out, so they need to adjust a little bit. If they can't find somebody to ask and they make decisions on their own, it might not be exactly the same decision you would have made.
exactly. Yep. And if you're bringing new staff members on, they don't recognize them. Or at our big market on Saturday, it's 6 blocks long. So we usually have a staffer that's in charge of 1 block or maybe 2 blocks, and they kind of stay in that area. But if you mix them up and there's new vendors and they're not familiar with the staff yet, I want to make sure that they know that that's a staff person, just like whoever else is usually up here, and they can ask them questions about that. So it's really, really helpful. I mean, you're doing yourself a disservice if your staff is looking undercover at your market.
Yeah, for sure. In order to stay creative about it, because I know the staff gets bored with the same old uniform, we've done things like print a new shirt each year that has a different funny pun on it and that kind of thing. And usually those are shirts that we're going to give to vendors or we're going to sell. But the staff version, has the big staff thing on the back. And I think the last time you did them, you printed farmers markets don't just happen right under that big staff on the back, which was fun. So that's good because then they have an assortment of shirts to choose from if they've been with us for a while. But then you start to move away too from that consistency of everybody knowing that, hey, this is staff. So I think, what you've done with adding the safety vests as part of the uniform, I think is really, really handy because it keeps it consistent no matter which shirt they're wearing it over.
Yeah, we did just add that. I got new uniforms for everybody just kind of at the beginning of the summer, and we have t-shirts, and there's not really a lot of recent t-shirts that I want them to wear because the ones we had prior to that, it was like the color was kind of off and wasn't very visible. But if we order a new shirt, I know the staff's making requests for like orange or pink or just like another neon color, which that would be great, as long as like the consistency with the branding is the same. But in the morning, we all wear our safety vests just from when we get on site until we open. So at 8 o'clock, they can take the safety vest off if they want to and just wear the staff shirt. But I think for setup, it's just really helpful in extra identification for vendors when they're setting up. And also because when you're setting up, we're like soft closing the streets. And so we have like Uber drivers that just like wiggle around our soft close while people are setting up. I mean, we have to have the street kind of open for vendors to drive in, but Uber drivers are just lost people or people that are in a hurry like scoot into the market space and the vendors are setting up their booth on the sides of the streets, but our staff is usually just standing in the middle of the street because they're directing. And so it's more like a safety thing. I don't want our staff to get hurt. And so it's just that extra layer of visibility, especially the folks that get there at 4:30 or 5 or 5:30 in the morning and it's dark when our staff is there. So yeah, it's just extra, safety, visibility, and identification. And it says staff on our safety vest as well, so people can tell who we are.
Well, and I think there's something about a safety vest and a whistle that not only create safety, but imply authority. So when
Oh, I'm
the
telling you.
Uber driver to just back out carefully, get off of my street, I'm trying to set up here. If you have that vest on, I think sometimes there's some confusion about whether you're some sort of public official or you're a law enforcement officer or something because of that bright, shiny vest. And they seem to take you a little more seriously than if you're standing there in a t-shirt and telling them, yo, dude, you can't park here.
Exactly. Yeah, you have a lot of authority with that safety vest. I feel like I can do anything in that vest. I can tell anybody to do, like, nope, you can't park there. You got to move, got to turn around. Can't turn down this street. And they just really listen as opposed to like, oh, who do you think you are trying to tell me where I can drive? So Yeah, it definitely helps. And it helps the staff feel more comfortable, like taking on some of that authority and feeling empowered
Yeah.
to really give instruction and do the job that they're supposed to do. And it's just an extra layer of that. It seems silly, it's just like a uniform, but it's a really important part of that because it's just that first visual that everybody gets.
Yeah. So you're assuming that role. I mean, I feel like with
Yeah.
safety vests and a whistle and maybe a lanyard, you can just pretty much rule the world.
Got to get a clipboard and just do whatever
Oh,
you want.
clipboard. Yes,
Can stop traffic.
clipboards are key.
Ah,
So,
right. That's right.
we do let them mix it up by choosing what they're going to wear on the bottom. We supply consistent t-shirts and things, but we don't tell them they have to wear black pants necessarily, or they have to wear jeans. We took one swing around the block, I think, with, hey, let's everybody wear overalls, but that was actually didn't go all that well. I think that some people love them. Some people, they're in a hurry. You got to use the restroom. It's a thing. It's a process. So, the overalls seem like a fun idea, but not so good. So they just kind of mix it up. We have some basic guidelines like, no cutoffs. Are cutoffs even a thing anymore? So no cutoffs, no like super shorty short shorts, that sort of thing.
Just Denny can wear his shorty shorts.
We do it
Some of our
staff.
some of our
Yes, that has
staffers,
that
yeah.
surfer look going on.
Some of our staffers wear overalls too. I think they're so cute. I have to kind of be like, oh, you're kind of covering up the staff part of the shirt in the back, but I think it's visual enough. And the fact that they wear their safety vest in the morning during setup over their overalls, that's enough for me, really, because then most of the time they're in the info booth. And so it's fine. And they have their name tags on. But yeah, they get creative with it. And I think they look cute. And it's, a way for them to express themselves. I just remind them, like, make sure you're comfy. And, I think they do a good job. I think our staff looks really great.
Yeah, I think so too. Shoes, we don't really specify shoes. What kind of shoes do you wear, Bridge? I know we're usually trying to avoid sort of the open toed thing because it's not, I mean, when you're hauling barricades and you're lugging safety cones, you drop one of those on a bare toe and ew, not so good. So that makes open toes not real sensible. I know you like a flip-flop, you like a nice sandal. Do you wear those at the market?
Never. The only time I ever wear closed-toed shoes is when I'm working at the market. I'm not a closed-toed shoe person, but I used to wear like my Toms, or I think I did wear sandals when I first started working the market many years ago when I was still in my youth. But it just hurts my feet so bad, and you get 20,000 steps in the day. It's like not practical. So yeah, I wear my like super sneakers. I usually get trail running sneakers. I have found that those are very comfy for standing and walking long periods of time on pavement.
Oh,
They're lightweight and they have traction, so you're not slipping around, and they're comfy. So I've had a couple trail runner pairs of shoes, and yeah, that's always what I wear is sneakers,
yeah.
sneaker types. And a lot of our staff does too. I think we've had some staff that wear like sporty sandals, like Tevas and stuff, so they're comfortable. But yeah, I just say, be comfy. If they're complaining at the end of the day that their feet hurt or they can't, do their closing duties because they have blisters, it's like, okay, then we're having a conversation. But really, they're adults. They can choose their footwear.
Oh, for sure. I think too, I mean, given the number of actual steps that we all do in a year managing markets, I'm pretty sure, I mean, talk to your CPA. I'm not an accountant, but I'm pretty sure you can consider really good quality walking shoes a business expense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would think so
I mean,
because
that
it's
is
part
a
of,
tool of your
yeah,
trade.
yep, for sure.
The name tags, of course, we think are key. We wish our farmers and vendors would wear name tags. Actually, in my dream world, the shoppers would wear name tags. I mean, because isn't that a whole thing when you're trying to make sales is if you use somebody's name, it's good. So think about your regular shopper coming up and being able to address them by name. I say we issue name tags to all shoppers.
I love that idea. And I feel like a lot of our shoppers would be into that, actually.
All right, let's
So
try that.
yeah.
Next National Farmers Market Week. Next year, that's what we're doing. We're giving name tags to the shoppers. We have given them to farmers and vendors a few times. Like we've had vendor parties, I think, where we gave everybody kind of a nice name tag and sort of encouraged them to wear it in the future. And then, out of 180 vendors or so, there'd be 6 folks that really embraced that. And then the rest of them just kind of lost them or flew them off or whatever.
Or they would switch name tags with their vendor neighbor to mess with us. Okay.
Yeah, that's true too. That's true too.
Yeah.
I think I've had a few, actually have never had it come up with a staff member, but I feel like I've had a couple of vendors that say that they would wear a name tag if they could pick a fake name because especially in the last couple of years, sometimes the tone and politics and stuff, they want to keep their privacy. They don't want to have their name out there. So that's been kind of interesting.
Yeah. I don't feel that way. I want everyone to know my name. I want everybody to call me by my name. It doesn't help me that my name is spelled weirdly, and so people don't know how to say it.
True.
So they'll say, "Hi, Bridget, Bridget." I'm like, "It's just Bridget." I should have the phonetics saying on there. But yeah, I mean, I like it, but I also do understand that it's not everybody's jam. So I just always want our staff to wear the name tags, just because I need our farmers and vendors to get to know them better. And I need really, if a farmer or vendor is like, "Oh, well, Caitlin said this at the market," and then I can go to Caitlin and be like, "Hey, Caitlin, like next time, maybe phrase this differently," or something, just to have kind of a person to go to instead of like, "Hey, one of your staffers said this." It's kind of helps with training and making sure that information's getting out there accurately. I just feel like it makes for a friendlier environment when you're wearing name tags. So I'm a name tag person. I wish everyone in the world would wear a name tag, because then we could say hi to each other by name on the street when we're walking by. But you know what? I guess we're far away from that. But
Too bad, because that's a really good idea.
and then for vendors and farmers, we don't really control any of that. But typically it's like, they're trained in food service if they have a booth that's selling food. So they kind of keep it food servicey. Also, we're in Southern California. And so sometimes we see crop tops and flip flops with, folks that are selling usually not food items, but are non-food vendors. But yeah, same things apply. Recognizable staff. You want to look professional. You want to give shoppers confidence. If you are a farmer or vendor and you're thinking about what your staff should be wearing, I mean, I don't see a ton of vendors and farmers wearing like uniform shirts. I think we were talking to Michael Kilpatrick like a long time ago on the podcast, and he was saying that getting your farm crew in a shirt with your farm name on it, it's just like a marketing tool,
Absolutely.
you know? Yeah, it's such a great tool, and you should definitely have your team wearing a, cohesive
We've seen a
uniform
few
when
of
they're at the
them. I
market.
think Toledo
Mhm.
Farms, they're pretty good about having everybody in uniform. JR Organics. Some of the
Mhm.
smaller farmers don't seem to think I mean, if you're a one person show, maybe it doesn't matter. But even then, if you've got your logo on your shirt, that's just one more way people are going to remember where they got that beautiful peach and not go to the other guys selling stone fruit. So even if it's just you, it's pretty smart to have a couple of t-shirts. Okay, so maybe three or four. We know washing is a thing, laundry's a thing,
Mhm.
but have a few t-shirts with your logo on it that you can wear in your booth. And then we see some food service folks that are really good about keeping their people in uniform. Again, it's just memorable. It lets people remember who to come back to. It will be good for your sales for sure. I don't think I know anybody that has a dress code per se for their farmers and vendors at their market, but we have had some delicate talks over the years. I mean, we've had the occasional, oftentimes an employee versus the owner of the business that is wearing a crop top that's a little too cropped, or something that's just not really food service appropriate and probably isn't helping their sales because it's just you just don't look like you're working exactly. And then I mean, I had a farmer years ago that used to do samples in his booth, and he was grilling, and he was just a really big guy with big guy body hair, and he would have these tank tops that were just barely there, and it was with the heat and everything. It was just we I finally had to have a little chat with him privately, of course, and say, I don't know if this is the best look. You're in a food service situation, so you just have to think about how people think about you being right over the food without having a little more coverage.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a delicate conversation, because we're not like body shaming or telling girls to cover up, like as women, I think we're all just traumatized by that for our entire lives.
I think I'm
But
thinking
it's
of a
more,
guy actually with that
yeah,
crappy crop top.
yes. Or that, like express yourself, like, totally into that. But it's more just like, well, are your sales okay? Like, do you seem approachable? And it's more just like the approachability of your staff in there. You want to make sure that you look like you're being like food safety conscious. And it's the same as like washing your hands and making sure that like your nails don't have dirt under them when you're serving food and stuff like that. It's like, okay, what you do in your free time is great, but when you show up for work, like you need to be presentable and be, food safety conscious. So, and having those conversations with your vendors can be really helpful. You just want to do it in like a tactful way, not a shaming way, and just make sure that they know that they're coming off a certain way to customers, and it could be affecting their sales. And when it comes down to it, like, these are businesses. They're there to sell and make money. So if something like cleaning up or, covering up a little bit would be helpful, then that's a helpful thing you can say.
For sure.
Yep.
Totally makes sense. And I do think that because our markets are full of entrepreneurs, we see a lot of creativity in our wardrobes.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Which is fun.
Yeah. And more, I guess to be more of a creative
Mhm.
place and people have fun with it. So much fun, in fact, that I think you're a big follower of the Union Square Green Markets. What's it called? Farmer fashion that they do every year.
Farmer fashion. They do it for Fashion Week in New York City, and they do Farmer Fashion Week. Yeah, it's so fun. They have their farmers, wear their you have to check it out. We should share some of their photos from past years. I don't know what time of year it happens. I feel like I'm not that cool to know when Fashion Week's happening, but yeah, they have their farmers dressed up, and the farmers opt into it obviously, but they wear like their fancy eggplant shirt and like their potato overalls and their wellies and their like lemon hat, and just they go all out, and it's so fun and so entertaining. You can tell that the farmers are really into it at the market.
I mean, some of them even like do a little sachet down the aisle as though we're a boardwalk, right? And they get some great pictures. It's awesome for their social media. I think everybody has so much fun with it.
Yeah, yeah. And then it's a really good marketing tool because they get a lot of hits on Insta with those. I mean, that's great content to put out, right? And then just kind of team building. I think it makes a little like fun camaraderie at the market. So
I mean,
it's a lot of fun.
costumes, always good.
Yeah.
We saw them during National Farmers Market Week. We always see them at Halloween time. And sometimes we just see them because somebody busted out and just wants to be a peapod that day.
Just feeling a little peapod today.
That's right.
We did see actually our hot sauce vendor, our Down to Ferment hot sauce staff. He's a staffer. He was in his chili pepper costume last week at the market, looking hot.
Janet often shows up with the bee costume on, those wings, and
That's right.
striped fuzzy onesie, looking like a bee, that honey beekeeper.
Just because. Which we love it.
Yeah.
You just go for it. I mean, when you're in like a sea of farmers and vendors, you have to think about this, right? You're like, your product is amazing, but you also need to be standing out at the market. So those are some fun ways to kind of draw the attention of the shopper crowd.
Absolutely. Hey, so let's have some fun with that. Pop up some photos on Instagram with your uniforms. If you love your uniforms, your favorite farmers and vendors and team doing their fashion creativity walks, pop it on up there. Tag us at Farmers Market Pros. Maybe hashtag Farmers Market Fashion. Let's get it going.
And we want to see your staff uniforms too. I'm always curious. I'm always looking for new ideas, so share those.
That's right. Love to see those.
Yep.
I mean, it all comes down to just finding the right blend of comfort and creativity, marketing magic, and fun. Believe us when we say you look amazing. Thanks for listening to Tent Talk today, and big thanks to Blue Owl Promos for supplying farmers market vendors and operators with everything from food packaging and uniform shirts to branded merch, and for supporting Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. To get more information or place your order, click the Blue Owl logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com.
Please leave us a review on your podcast app, YouTube, or wherever you access this podcast, and tell us how you're enjoying Tent Talk. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss the next episode. Connect with fellow farmers market folks in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community. Follow us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros and find online education and other resources on our website at farmersmarketpros.com. Don't forget to sign up for our email newsletter while you're there. Tent Talk is brought to you by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was produced by Haley Pascalades. Original music by David Mead. Join us next week for another great episode.